Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Prey. Prey is a German thriller that tells the story of 5 friends who go on a hiking/camping trip together, and they're about to finish the trip when they're suddenly attacked by a mysterious sniper in the woods. Unable to receive a signal to their cell phones and having little in the way of survival gear, the 5 have no choice but to traverse through the woods together and seek out help as soon as possible before they're all killed off by the sniper. Based on that premise alone, the movie isn't exactly original. Hell, I can think of at least 2 movies that I've seen this year that have more or less the same concept behind them. Now, as I've said in the past, just because something is unoriginal, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. When it comes to movies, the most important thing is how the story is told and how its characters are developed. In this movie's case, though, sadly, neither aspect is done particularly well. Roman is considered the main character out of the group of 5 who are stuck in the woods together, and he's okay for the most part. He's not really bad per se, but aside from being the only one to have some sort of moral compass, as a protagonist, he's quite unremarkable. The movie does attempt to add some depth to his character by exploring the relationship he has with his lover Lisa through a bunch of different flashback scenes that are spread throughout the movie, but the depth they add are surface level at best, and at the end of the day, the flashbacks never truly affect the main story at hand. The rest of the characters aren't even worth mentioning. Vinny, Stefan, Peter, and Roman's brother Albert are all one-note characters who exist purely as cannon fodder for the sniper to pick off. There is some dialogue at the beginning that suggests that they're all co-workers who founded a business together or something like that, but it's never important or related to what's supposed to be going on. Which leads me to talk about the killer who's hunting all these guys down. And again, there's nothing notable or unique about the killer other than the fact that she is a woman, and that by itself is not enough. The movie never explains why she lives in the middle of nowhere, how she's able to wield a gun so easily, what she's able to do in order to track these guys all across the woods no matter where they go. There's just a lot of questions related to her character that never get answered. So yeah, the characters in this movie are pretty lame. However, if we take away the lameness of the characters and focus just on the situation at hand, I do think that the movie does succeed as a thriller for the most part. There are quite a few tense chase sequences involved in this movie. I was actually surprised at how long I was able to hold off on killing a character, as well as keeping me guessing as to when another character was going to get killed off and how. In my opinion, the movie's suspense is on point, and suspense is the hallmark of great thriller cinema. A few artistic elements help enhance the suspense in this movie too. The rural environment of the woods that these guys are all running through adds to the isolation they're all experiencing, especially as they're killed off one by one, and the tense ambient soundtrack always keeps you on your toes. Unfortunately, it's difficult to appreciate the effort that was put into building the suspense in this movie because the story tends to get in the way of it, especially when unnecessary drama occurs between all the male characters. These guys argue and bicker with each other like they're a bunch of school children. Even before they were getting shot at, I had a hard time believing they were all supposed to be friends. And while the chase sequences are good at first, they get old pretty quick. As characters become increasingly more injured over the course of the story, their chases turn into slow, plodding walks, which really ruin the pacing of the story for me, and it certainly doesn't help that there's not a lot of interesting settings in their environment other than trees for miles on end. Despite this though, I do think that the movie still works as a thriller to a certain extent. If the story was more interesting, I could forgive the boring characters that are populating it, but instead, not only is the story uninteresting, but it ends up being the worst part of the experience. To begin with, the killer's motivations are unjustified and make no sense. There is a reasoning that's given as to why she's killing off the guys in an attempt to explain it off, but honestly, it's so laughably bad that I can't even bring myself to talk about it at length. It just has to be seen to be believed. The passage of time was something else that confused the hell out of me. I had no idea if this movie was supposed to be taking place across one day or multiple days. All I knew is that there were no nighttime shots, so I just automatically assumed that this movie took place within the span of a day, which is fine, I can tolerate that. Except there's a character in the group who ends up contracting a leg infection about halfway through the story, and it progresses at an unrealistically fast rate in my opinion. I mean, I'm not a doctor by any means, but if the movie's supposed to take place across one day, as I was led to believe, then how come the infection is able to spread so quickly in such a short period of time? It's like, what? And to top it all off, there's a little sub-story going on in the form of a love triangle between Roman and his brother Albert and his lover Lisa. And I mean, Lisa's not even there to give her input in the situation anyway, so it's like, why bring it up? Seriously, what was the point of bringing this up in the middle of the woods when they're getting shot at? And the answer to that question is None. It had no bearing on the situation whatsoever. The issue is picked up and then it's immediately dropped like it's hot, just like all the other hot button issues that these boys are constantly squabbling about. Overall, Prey is an okay thriller that had some potential behind it, but its ridiculous story and boring characters hold it back from being an enjoyable experience. If you're a fan of thriller movies, especially those that take place in the woods, and you can deal with silly stories and flat characters, you might be able to enjoy this one, but for me personally, it was just too much. Believe me when I say that I really wanted to like this movie. I do think it succeeds as a thriller on a technical level, but its story and characters are creatively bankrupt, which ended up affecting the flow of tension as the story moved along, and for a thriller movie, that is not a good thing at all. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Prey. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the children's fantasy horror flick, Night Books. Bye bye!